Now Adonai said to Abram, Get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse those who curse you. And by you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Abram went as Adonai had said to him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, as well as the people they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and entered the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land to the place called Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. The Canaani were then in the land. Adonai appeared to Abram and said, To your descendants I will give this land. So he built an altar there to Adonai, who had appeared to him. He left that place and went to the hill east of Beit El, and he pitched his tent, with Beit El to the west and Ai to the east. He built an altar there and called on the name of Adonai. Then Abram traveled on, continuing towards the Negev. But there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down into Egypt to stay there, because of the famine in the land was severe. When he came close to Egypt and was about to enter, he said to Sarai his wife, Here now, I know that you are a good-looking woman, so that when the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife, and kill me, but keep you alive. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well with you for your sake, so that I will stay alive because of you. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians did notice that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's princess saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake, giving him sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But Adonai inflicted great plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her to be my own wife? Now therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go away. So Pharaoh gave orders concerning him to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Abram went up from Egypt, he, his wife, and everything he had, and Lot went with him into the Negev. Abram, wealthy and with much cattle, silver and gold. As he went on his travels from the Negev, he came to Beit El, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Beit El and Ai, where he had first built the altar, and there Abram called on the name of Adonai. Lot who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. But the land could not support their living together, because their possessions were too great for them to remain together. Moreover, quarreling arose between Abram's and Lot's herdsmen. The Canaani and the Perizzai were then living in the land. Abram said to Lot, Please let's not quarrel. Let's not have quarreling between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours, since we're kinsmen. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Please separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left. Lot looked up and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered everywhere, before Adonai had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Adonai, like the land of Egypt and the desert of Zoar. So Lot chose all the plain of the Jordan for himself, and Lot traveled eastward. Thus they separated themselves from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, setting up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, committing great sins against Adonai. Adonai said to Abram, after Lot had moved away from him, "Look all around you from where you are, to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. All the land you see I will give to you and your descendants forever. And I will make your descendants as numerous as the specks of dust on the earth, so that if a person can count the specks of dust on the earth, then your descendants can be counted. Get up and walk through the length and breadth of the land, because I will give it to you." Abram moved his tent and came to live by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. There he built an altar to Adonai. When Amraphel was king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, they made war against Bera, king of Sodom, and against Birsha, king of Amorah, Shinav, king of Admah, and Shemaver, king of Zoivayim, the king of Bela, which is the name of Zoar, same as Zoar. All the latter kings joined forces in the Sidon Valley, where the Dead Sea is. They had served Kedorlaomer 12 years, but in the 13th year they had rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings with him came and defeated Rephaim and the Ashtaroth, Karnaim and the Zuzim and Ham, the Imim in Shaveh Kiryatim Taim, and the Horai at Seir, their mountain, all the way to El Paran by the desert. Next they turned back, came to Ein Mishpat, which is the same as Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amalekai, also the Amorite, who lived in the Hatzatzon Tamar. Then the kings of Sodom, Amorah, Admah, Zoivim, and Bela, that is Zoar, came out and arrayed themselves for battle in the Sidon Valley against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Admah, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against the 5. Now the Sidon Valley was full of clay pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Amorah fled, some fell into them, while the rest fled to the hills. The victors took all the possessions of Sodom and Amorah and all their food supply, then they left. But as they left, they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Someone who had escaped came and told Abram and the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre and Imrai, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and all of them allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his nephew had been taken captive, he led out his trained men, who had been born of his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night he and his servants divided his forces against them, then attacked and pursued all of them all the way to Hova, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his nephew Lot with his goods, together with the women and the other people. After his return from the slaughtering, Kedorlaomer and the kings with him, the king of Sodom, went out to meet him in the Shaveh Valley, is known as the King's Valley. Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. He was Cohen of El Elyon, the God Most High. So he blessed him with these words: "Blessed be Avram by El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth. And blessed be El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you." Avram gave him 1/10 of everything. The king of Sodom said to Avram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourselves. But Abram answered the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to Adonai, Elyon, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal of thong of anything that is yours, so that you won't be able to say I have made Abram rich. I will take only what the troops have eaten and the share of the spoil belonging to the men who came with me. Honor Eshcol and Mamre, let them have their share. Sometime later, the word of Adonai came to Abram in a vision. Don't be afraid, Abram. I'm your protector. Your reward will be very great. Abram replied, Adonai God, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless, and Eliezer from Damascus inherits my possessions? You haven't given me a child, Abram continued, so someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Adonai came to him, This man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. Then he brought him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if you can count them. Your descendants will be that many. He believed in Adonai, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Then he said to him, I am Adonai, who brought you out of Kasdim to give you this land as your possession. He replied, Adonai God, how am I to know that I will possess it? He answered him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, dove, and a young pigeon. He brought him all these and cut the animals in two and placed the pieces opposite each other. But he didn't cut the birds in half. Birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Avram drove them away. As the sun was about to set, a deep sleep fell on Avram. Horror and great darkness came over him. Adonai said to Avram, Know this for certain, that your descendants will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs. They will be slaves and held in oppression there for 400 years. But I will also judge that nation, the one that makes them slaves. Afterwards they will leave with many possessions. As for you, you will join your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. Only in the 4th generation will your descendants come back here, because only then will the Emori be ripe for punishment. After the sun had set, there was thick darkness. A smoking firepot and a flaming torch appeared, which passed between the animal parts. That day Adonai made a covenant with Avram. I have given this land to your descendants from the Vadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River, the territory of the Kenai, the Kenizzai, the Kadmoni, the Hittite, the Perizzai, the Rephaim, the Emori, the Canaanite, the Girgashai, and the Yebushai. Now Sarai, Avram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, Here now, Adonai has kept me from having children. So go on and sleep with my slave girl. Maybe I'll be able to have a child through her. Abram listened to what Sarah said. It was after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she conceived. But when she became aware that she was pregnant, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarai said to Abram, This outrage being done to me is your fault. True, I gave my slave girl to you to sleep with, but when she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me. When she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me in contempt. May Adonai deceive who is right. I or you. Decide who is right. However, Abram answered Sarai, Look, she's your slave girl. Deal with her as you think fit. Then Sarai treated her so harshly that she ran away from her. The angel of Adonai found her by a spring in the desert, the spring on the road to Shur, and said, Hagar, Sarai's slave girl, where have you come from, and where are you going? She answered, I'm running away from my mistress Sarai. The angel of Adonai said to her, Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority. The angel of Adonai said to her, I will greatly increase your descendants. There will be so many that it will be impossible to count them. The angel of Adonai said to her, Look, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to call him Yishmael. God pays attention. Because Adonai has paid attention to your misery, he will be a wild donkey of a man, and with his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, living his life at odds with all his kinsmen. So she named Adonai, who had spoken with her, El Roi, God of seeing, because she said, Have I really seen the one who sees me and stayed alive? That is why the well has been called Be'er Lachai Roi, well of the one who lives and sees. It lives between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the son called the son whom Hagar had borne Yishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. When Abram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Abram fell on his face, and God continued speaking with him. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will be no longer Abram, exalted father, but your name will be Abraham, father of many, because I have made you the father of many nations. I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant, to be God for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. God said to Abram, As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. This will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household and those born from a foreigner not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person brought with your money must be circumcised. Thus my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any circumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of the foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, because he has broken my covenant. God said to Abram, As for Sarai, your wife, you will not call her Sarai, mockery. Her name is to be Sarah, princess. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly I bless you. She will be a mother of nations. Truly I bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of people will come from her. At this, Abram fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, Will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to God, If only Ishmael could live in your presence. God answered, No, but Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you are to call him Yitzhak. Laughter. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzhak, whom Sarah will bear to you as at this time next year. With that, God finished speaking with Abram and went up from him. Abram took Ishmael his son, all the slaves born in his household, and all who had been brought with his money, Every male among the people in Avram's household and circumcised the flesh of foreskin that very day, just as God had said to him. Avram was 99 years old when he was circumcising the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael his sons were circumcised on the same day, and all the men in the household, both slaves born in his household and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him.